What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jonathan from Calling in Favors. First episode since relocating. As you can tell, I'm kind of still living out of a backpack right now, crashing on a buddy's car, but we're good. You know, I feel like myself again. I'm happier than I've been in years. Pinehurst had a lot to do with that. You know, stopping on the golf course, even though it was the cradle and it was only a couple times around, you know, I tried to get some video of it. I wasn't playing great. Kind of got frustrated and stopped recording, but I got enough. You know, I got enough to explain kind of what I was going through, what I was working on. One of the things that you saw right away, I'm right back to my old habits. You know, open stance, club comes inside, rip it over the top, you know. So that shot that I hit, that flop shot, I'm exaggerating out to in, and when I watched the video, I could see it go inside. Unfortunately, that's what caused me to stick the club in the ground. The ball slid up the face, and it didn't go far enough, you know. That's a perfect example right there. I didn't have anything in my bag to hit that shot with to run it up the hill. I don't like using the putter because when you go at it too hard, you bang it into the ground and it just hops up and it takes all the speed off it. I don't like a pitching wedge because when you hit it up in the air, it gets about halfway up the hill air-wise and then it lands and it kills it. So I like something 6-iron or 60 degree, right? In that situation, I only had the 60 degree wedge, so we went up. One of the things that caused me to notice is my typical miss. You know, I can work on it and work on it and work on it. And that's what I don't think the new generation of golfer understands is how hard it is to make a change, right? You can sit there and pound balls all you want. If you're not doing it properly and you don't have somebody to tell you whether or not you're doing it properly, or even if you miss it every couple swings, you know, you're out there going through the motions, doing the exercise thing rather than the practice thing, it's easy to fall back into old habits. And that's what I do. You know, I got out on the golf course, and it wasn't until the 9th hole on the cradle that I remembered, you know, close your stance, stuff it back, and hit a low trap shot. That's how I get back to speed. It's just a matter of staying compact, keeping this hand square on the way back and staying connected, right? When I get open, I get tilty, I rip it inside, and I have to try to use my back shoulder to create height. And what that does is has me come out of every shot, and I hit lazy high right. So then I got to get back to practice, right? And we get back to practice. Sorry, guys, I'm a little uncomfortable in here. It's a little hot and everything's sticking to me. But when we get back to practice, we work on the same thing, right? We work on that set up and take away, and that's it. That's all I work on, ever. I'm not trying to change my golf swing. It's too late for that. My golf swing is my golf swing. I'm trying to make adjustments and do what I do the best I possibly can. And I promise, if that's what you do and that's what you work on, you're going to enjoy golf. It's going to make golf a lot more fun. It's even more exaggerated on short game shots, right? When I get open, I even get open with the putter. The stroke gets crossed and the face gets open, and all of a sudden I start missing right. It's everything. I have to focus on it on every swing. That's why we talk about going through your pre-shot during practice, right? Every time I take a shot on the driving range, I'm trying to step off the mat and do the whole once my glove goes tight thing. Now it's about the target, laser focus, right? We used to do that when I was a kid, and then all of a sudden mental health and self-doubt started creeping in, right? And then that's where the medication popped in. It helped. It was like, wow, open my eyes, right? All of a sudden you're standing over the golf ball, and instead of saying, where is this going? It's where this might go in. And it felt good, and that was the struggle. It was constant, right? I can explain to you guys what it's like to stand over the ball and think about the worst possible outcome. Trust me, I do it all the time. I'm a negative motherfucker. You guys have been around me. Like, it's not my life. It's my golf game. It's my mental thoughts that are negative. Most of the time, I don't do it outwardly. It wasn't until recently when I was on the medication that I started talking about my health and how I feel and how much pain I'm in. You know, most of the time, it was just kind of ignore it and figure it the fuck out, right? That's kind of what I've always said. My health dictates my mental health. You know, I was pretty good at standing over the ball, and if I don't like something, moving away and starting over, because it takes more time to go find the piece of shit that you hit in the woods than it does to step away and start over. So from now on, if I see myself doing it or catch myself on video, I'll point it out to you guys. I'll try to remember what I was thinking and why I stepped away from it. It's easier to hear it than it is to see it and say it. You know, everybody says, oh, Tiger, he stopped. He's amazing. Dude, we all have the ability. I'm sure there's been times where you've been standing over the ball saying, step away, step away, step away, and you just didn't do it because mentally you weren't strong enough to do it. That's what I got to get back to. I got to understand I don't have the crutch of the medication anymore, nor do I want it. I'm better off without it. So, yeah, dude, when it comes to me, physically, mentally, I'm broken. I am. I know it. I just have to find a way to keep that fucking, you know, that stack of puzzle pieces together for 4 hours at a time. Or when I'm working for 8 hours at a time, right? You just keep your shit together and then you go home and you're by yourself and you vent. Sound familiar? It's what I used to do every day. It was all my rounds of golf. You know, it was me, Bogey, and the cart. You know, a couple drinks and just the music and ourself. It was fun. Golf was fun. There was no thought process of, ooh, that hurts, or what am I going to shoot today? I didn't care. I just went out and hit the ball, right? And 9 times out of 10, you play well, right? How many times did I roll up to the first tee at Caddyshack 2 and roast hybrid off the first tee with a low draw that chased, hit a wedge up there close, and before you know it, you're off and running. You haven't hit a ball, you haven't thought about golf, you blink and you're a couple under, and then you're like, holy shit, this was easy. And then you start thinking about golf and the score goes downhill. So that's what I got to get back to. I got to get back to focus, the target. That's it. Just hit the shot, right? All the work is done. The preparation is done on the driving range if you're doing it right. You're not practicing. I mean, you're not exercising. You're actually practicing. You hit 1 bucket instead of 4, but you do it the right way. And then you go to the short game area and you grind over there. But the reason why I say that is because if you look and you hear about what I just talked about, my trip in Pinehurst, my miss, open, rip it inside, happens on a short game shot. If I go to the driving range and spend 20, 25 minutes hitting wedges, little half wedges, under control, square stance, ball a little further back than normal, and don't be afraid to trap it and close the face, I hit low, boring, good shots that are on target. It's that simple. It's understanding your game and understanding how to play. I had gotten away from playing golf. I had started getting into hitting golf shots because I didn't get enough time to play, and all I did was stay in my bay and hit shots. So when you got out there, it was trying to manufacture what you were able to accomplish in your bay while out on the golf course. And that's impossible. You can't do that. There's so many different variables out on the golf course. Also part of the reason why I don't like simulated golf, because the results don't show from 100 and in whether or not you flew it under 30 degrees, whether or not it hit that one hot and stop, how close to your actual distance that you were trying to fly it, you actually flew it. You know, those are the things that get a little twisted on simulators and indoors, right? The sounds change, the feels change. So, yeah, you know, that's why I don't like it. And if you guys do, and that's your thing, and if it helps you, great. This podcast is about me and my golf game and what it affects and what things affect it and how to change it and some of the stuff that I can help you guys on by thinking that way and thinking more positive. You know, I follow the guy Duffing Up on Instagram, and all he talks about is how bad he is. Well, how does he expect to go to the golf course and have some success, right? You got to have positive thoughts. And some people are like, oh, Almeida thinks he's as good as he used to be, blah, blah, blah. I still pull off all the shots. I just run out of gas. You know, how many rounds tail off at the end, right? When I'm on the driving range, I still have every shot in my bag. So I know I still have potential to be that good. Just unfortunately, I'm not healthy. But on the medication, it was all positives, and I felt better over the ball. I made it to the semifinals of the club championship while I wasn't even playing great. I just found a way to keep it in front of me and keep it below 75. Usually in a one-on-one match play, below 75 is going to get you a win, right? Birdies are key, but 18 pars usually wins the match. That's what it is. That's what my golf game was. I was never going to go out and shoot 62 or 3, but I was also never going to go out and shoot 78 or 9. It was always 75 to 65, somewhere in that 10-shot range. And I was comfortable living there, and I could compete there. So hopefully we get back to that. You know, that's, for me, golf has always been competition, and it's been healthy, and it's been a grind, and let's go. And, you know, the 4th of July tournament with my partner Maddie was a blast. It was a 3-day medal play event, you know, and it was a grind nonstop. That's the way match play kind of waters down golf a little bit, right? You make a 12, you pick it up after 7, and you move on, and it's one hole. It's not a 12. I miss the grind of stay in the moment all day, every day, you know. A couple years ago, after COVID, they tried to have the Cape Cod Open, and I tried to play it, but I just wasn't there mentally. I didn't have it with me. I didn't have the grind, and I think I shot like 84, and it sucked. It wasn't fun, and I realized, you know what, we got to get better, or we got to stop competing, one or the other. I can't do that to myself. I'd rather be at work. You know, I'd make this joke with a buddy. He's my real estate agent, and we played golf a couple times while the house was up for sale. Actually, no, it was while we were searching for the house, because she played with us. And I made the joke, anybody who said the good day of work is better than a bad day of golf, they're full of shit. Let me be in my bay making $1,000, $1,500 all day over going out and shooting 80 all day, any day. Not even a question. But enough about me. Let's get back to golf, and let's start talking some Bermuda and some bent grass and what the differences are. Up home, you've heard me talking about the difference between practicing off grass and off a mat. Well, it's even more exaggerated off of Bermuda. You know, Bermuda's a wiry grass. It grows like this. And it grows combined like a crabgrass almost. It grows like a wire brush. And when you try to hit short game shots, it's going to grab the heel if you stick the heel in the ground. It's going to grab the toe if you stick the toe in the ground. That's why understanding your attack angle and, you know, path is important on Bermuda. You know, if you don't catch ball first and you don't hit it solid, you're going to miss. All right, guys, here's a perfect example of what happened when I was on the medication. I get onto a little bit of a rant and I never come out of it. And then when I edit it, I forget what I wanted to say. I get a little off topic in this point right now. Nothing bad. I don't get crazy and I don't go too deep. But I forgot to talk about the difference between overseeding and not overseeding. The difference of soil temperatures, when to water, when not to water. Something I learned at Pinehurst was, because the soil temperature doesn't get below freezing in those few nights where they go cold, when they cover the greens, the water actually turns this into an insulant as opposed to freezing. You see, that's one of the things that a lot of guys up home don't recognize and don't realize is it's the soil temperature that matters, not the air temperature. Bent grass can usually handle up to 75 or 80 degree soil temperature before you have to worry about start cooling it down. 65 is almost ideal. That's why you see in the fall, golf courses are in such good shape, because it's sunny enough and warm enough during the day where it doesn't change the soil temperature, but it gets the leaf the sunlight it needs. At night, the temperatures fall below, and it doesn't really grow that much. So when they mow it, they're mowing less and less. You see in the summertime when they're overwatering, a lot of times guys got to get off the mower, empty a bucket. That doesn't happen in the fall. Well, same thing with Bermuda this time of year. Once the soil temperature goes below, it goes dormant, aka it turns brown. It's not dead, it's still there, you can still play off it. Back in 1999, when Pinehurst started thinking about hosting the US Open, the USGA came in and said, you can't overseed. Here's why. What happens is it changes the grass composition. When you overseed it with rye, Bermuda starts playing a little softer and a little mushier. Now, guys from the north come down, they want to see green. So you don't have an option financially or business-wise, or you didn't have an option, rather. Business-wise, you had to spend the money. It's not a cheap process. Back in 2004 was the last time I worked in Pinehurst. I think it was going to cost us $30,000 to oversee the golf course. But what would it cost us to be brown and lacking customers? You know, that's the difference between the north and the south, right? You're starting to see all these hybrids. They're switching back to Bermuda greens, but it creates other issues, and now they have to cover greens. They found out that water is an insulant for them. It keeps the grass warm, and it keeps the golf course playing more the way it should. But unfortunately, around the greens, it gets a little soft, and that's where I ran into trouble with the wedges. I was expecting it to be firm underneath, like Bermuda usually is, but it was soft, as if the way an overseed would be. You're going to see it this week out in Arizona, or next week, whenever the waste management is, where the fairways and tees and greens are neon green, but the outside is brown. That's because the outside is Bermuda and the inside is rye. In the summer, when the hot months come, obviously the Bermuda takes over. But sometimes you get some weeds in there too, and it causes some other issues. That's why the USGA didn't allow Pinehurst number 2 to overseed in years that they had the US Open. What they realized was the overall conditions of the golf course going forward for the Bermuda was healthier. So they stopped overseeding. When they stopped overseeding, kind of the rest of the clubs were able to fall in line. You know, if guys are paying $550 to play a brown number 2, they'll pay $100 to play a brown Talamore, for example, if they don't overseed. Now, I'm not sure if they did or didn't. I know Mid-South did last year when we were down, or 2 years ago. So now it's more of a golf condition superintendent member's maintenance choice than it is a necessity from a financial business side, right? So all these things change, and I've been through it in my entire career, and I've seen it everywhere. And I ask questions all the time. You know, I got into it a little while ago when talking about different golf courses up north, about how the new minimalist golf society, you know, Core Crenshaw, Gil Hance, Tom Doak, right? They go walking greens. And I remember having a conversation with Sean from OS about, you know, L94 grass and how grainy it is. And he's like, yep, whenever I saw a spot that didn't have enough grain on the greens, I threw a little bit of that and a little fescue down. And they do it on purpose. They want it to play old school. And understanding grain is a whole nother conversation. And we could maybe have that, because chipping into the grain and chipping down grain is going to be a different story. But yeah, I wanted to chime in here because, again, one of the conversations I wanted to have is why to overseed and why not to overseed. Look, that's it. If the consumer coming from the north is looking for green, you have to overseed Bermuda grass. Even though the grass isn't dead and it's still very playable, it doesn't look great and it's all brown. So, yep, Pinehurst number 2 and Core Crenshaw kind of changed the way a lot of people look at overseeding over the past 10 years. And it's fun to see. I'm cool with it being brown as long as the greens are good, right? I say it all the time. Start with the greens and get backwards. When the greens are playable and great, give me firm, fast, dry, brown, dormant Bermuda all day, and I'm loving it. So, all right, guys, back to the regular episode. You'll see the view change again. Let's go. In the summertime, when it's dry and firm, you're going to bounce and scull. In the wintertime, when it's wet and mush, you're going to stick it in the ground. And unlike bent grass, where sometimes you can get away with a little bit of a chunk, you can't on Bermuda. You know, around the greens on bent, sometimes when you hit down on it, you'll catch the ball, you'll continue to dig, you'll take a big divot, but by the time you do, the ball's gone. But you see the club continue through the path. On Bermuda, it's different. Once the club sticks in the wet ground, it's going to stick in the wet ground. Once the ball lands, it's going to grab right away, right? It's a risky play to try to use a 60-degree wedge around the greens with Bermuda grass. Anywhere I can, I take a 6 or a 7 iron. Now, those of you that play with me up north, even on, you know, firm, fast, bent grass, I do the same. You know, bent grass grows along the ground and underneath each other. That's why every once in a while you'll see them, they have to verticut. They slice the blades that are on top of each other. You know, how many times have you played a golf course? You know, Caddyshack 2 is a perfect example. Everything goes to the mall, right? And you talk about the greens and the way they break. And if you don't verticut, bent grass, like I said, grows end on end, and it starts to grow in one direction, and it creates grain that you don't really expect to see on bent, because most of the time it's cut so tight and rolled and verticut and punched and aerated all the times so the blade never gets too long. But if you're on a golf course where it does, OS, BGC, you know, they have 6 or 7 different grasses that they throw out on the greens, because they tried purposely to create that old school type of golf, right? They wanted grainy greens. They wanted you to have to understand what you're playing and reading. You're starting to see that a lot with Core Crenshaw designs. You know, Gil Hance is another one that does it. Who's the other? I'm drawing a blank. Oh, Tom Doak. You know, those new designers are all taking it back to minimalist type golf. You know, Core Crenshaw went Pinehurst number 2, 1 line irrigation down the middle, 2 heights of cut, right? They cut fairways and greens. That's it. They don't need to cut rough. They don't water it. When it rains and you get a little bit of rain, yes, the rough will come up and it'll get a little thick and get challenging, but it's not by design. They'd rather you be in the waste area and struggle that way. You know, it's all about going back to the way golf originally was intended. You know, a lot of these golf courses throughout the years, whether it was irrigation systems, better players looking for better conditions, or insurance companies, right? I've mentioned Bob the Builder grabbing his ankles. Groupie Troopy confirmed that's the reason why they're building the tee on 12. There's a neighbor that's complaining about his solar panels that keeps getting hit. Don't move in next to a golf course. Or if you do, cover the fucking solar panels. Golf has been here for 100 years. You decided to move in there. You know, the only reason he lost the lawsuit was because he was a fucking cocksucker in court, and the judge just slammed the gavel and said, you lose. Eventually, during appeals and shit, they overturned that ruling because they realized how ridiculous it was. And the only problem was they weren't trying to do anything to help. The golf course was built second. The house was there first. The line of sight was directly into their backyard, and they refused to do anything. No trees, no net. They refused to compromise. There's a lot of compromises that can happen on 12 at Caddyshack 2, you know. I've mentioned it, and I'm not going to get into detail. I've gone down that rant for the past 12 months, you know. This is back to being golf, but we're talking about the difference between renovating and Bermuda and bent. And, you know, that holds a perfect example of bent grass that's supposed to be firm and fast. When you look at the left side of 12 at Caddyshack 2, that all used to be lightning fast, and guys would hit hybrid, or actually back then they didn't have hybrids, but it was 4 or 5 iron or 3 wood down the left side, and everything would just funnel down to the middle to that 150 marker. For the guys that really got a good one or got a good bounce, they'd get it to the 135, 125. It wasn't until COVID in the beginning golfer that they realized they couldn't reach the bottom of the hill because of how soft it was. And if they hit hybrid, it would land at like 180 and stay at 180. So now you got these dopes that can't keep it on the planet hitting driver, trying to get it to the bottom of the hill, and instead they're hitting houses. But again, it goes back to the minimalist golf, right? They keep adding trees. They're adding trees to protect the maintenance barn, trees to protect the houses, trees to protect 7-hole. Well, it changes the way golf plays, and then now it creates other problems. And when you don't stop to look at those problems, and you keep voting in a president that has no clue when it comes to golf, he just likes to build things for a show, that's what you end up with. You know, the Groupie Troopy kind of took some cheap shots, right? Oh, you want to be golf pro, you want to be club fitter, you fucking cradle robber. Because that's what they do when they can't get into an argument and win. We talk golf here in this podcast, and that's what we're going to get back to. So everything I say from Caddyshack 2 from now on comes from a strictly golf perspective. So I'm not going to get into it with him. I don't need to. The fact that he took it to my medication and calling me a cradle robber just tells you the kind of level that he's on. He knows he can't get in an argument with me about golf, so he took it there. By the way, Officer Ricky, nice little video on TikTok, violating rights, you fucking douchebag. See, that's what they do, though. Subordinate types follow the lead of their leaders. And he's following the lead of Bob the Builder. He's regurgitating his explanations word for word, and it makes no sense when it comes to golf. So, you know, it is what it is. My last comment on that place, personally, you don't have a golf course problem. You don't have a membership problem. Hell, I know about 20 guys that would all throw in $100, $200 to do whatever golf project needs to be done. But they don't want to ask that question, because if they fix that problem, they won't be able to explain it when it comes back. See the sod on 17 last year. You have a leadership problem. You have a leader that would rather explain away the problems than do something to fix it. And that's on the membership for continuously voting him in office. But enough about that place, right? I've ranted about that enough for the past 18 months. Let's move on to golf and the golf issues in this situation, right? Like other places, the good players have gotten older, and golf has had to figure out a way to get younger. And how do we create that new membership that comes along? And with that, I think a lot of clubs, by being as snooty as they were for as long as they were, did a bad job of bringing up that better player. So now at a lot of clubs, you have guys that have like 15 to 18 handicaps, right? Making golf decisions. And that's okay, but at the end of the day, that's not really going to get you that tournament player, right? They talk about at a lot of places, old members complaining about that intermediate membership. I think the intermediate membership is the best thing. Okay, it's cheap. I get it. But they should still have a voice, because they're the ones that either stay or they leave, right? There's a lot of clubs that are doing that intermediate membership, and I think that is the core that you need to hold on to, because when they're thinking about joining a golf course, they want to have conversations like this about Bermuda grass and what are the grass types, and am I going to be able to travel to my buddy's member guests and not shoot a million all weekend, right? Because the conditions kind of determine that. Where you play golf determines your ability at playing golf. And it sucks that that's the case, but it is. Soft, slow conditions make golf easier. And for the higher handicapper, if they're playing only that, they're never going to get better. And then when they go try to travel, they got no chance. So, but again, it's a lot of clubs. I've seen that at a lot of places that I've worked, the different levels of memberships, and too often the current membership is spiteful and bitter about the discounts, and it's like, dude, relax. Too many memberships are bitter and spiteful about the discounts because it doesn't match what they've been paying that whole time, and they feel like they're losing value on their membership. But at the end of the day, I talk to guys all the time. More guys are chiming in on this podcast that are 30-year members of that place, Caddyshack 2, with same, agree, definitely 100% spot on, because they know what the conditions were. So if you don't give anything up to get more members, you're devaluing your membership. So you are giving shit up, right? You're giving up the ability to show up every day with pride in the golf course that you're a member at, and the conditions, and the fact that you want to bring guests in encouraging growth. And that's the problem. Too many times you get guys trying to protect, oh, well, we can't do that because the older members will complain. Okay, well, then let them leave and let that new generation turn over and let that new generation take over. And that's the problem at Caddyshack 2, and it's the problem at so many places across the country, is you don't get that young voice in leadership. And unfortunately, a lot of times they hire like younger golf professionals, right? And they hire younger golf professionals because they think they can mold them into the golf professional that they want. And that's fine. But when the golf professional has a good idea, listen to them. Same thing with superintendent, same thing with chef. Those three are the faces of your country club, right? Golf pros first. It's what you see. It's who you see every day. You talk to him, you shake his hands. He's the one hearing your complaints. So make sure he's a guy that fits your vibe, right? So, all right, a little bit of a rant, but, it is what it is because it's happening across the country. And that's when I do get on rants about golf and about sales and about stuff like that, I don't want it to be about Caddyshack 2. They've given me so much content over the past, 6-7 months. It's time to use that content elsewhere. And there's other places that I see it and hear it. Trust me. You don't think these rants are coming from nowhere, right? It's the guys in my DMs, it's the guys in my comments that are talking about golf and about what they struggle with at their club and their issues, in terms of their golf swings and stuff. So, but yeah, a lot of times it got to the point where we talk about maintenance and conditions of courses, and it gets me off topic because I get on rants, but it matters. It matters on how you sell the golf course, and it matters on whether or not you enjoy your vacations. And that's why I'm doing this episode, right? Bermuda, Bent. So one last thing that I want to talk about with you guys, with the younger golfers that don't play often, that now are taking that golf trip down to Florida this winter, next week, next month. Steep is a problem. Divots are a problem on Bermuda, especially down here in Florida where it's very sandy and dry. Don't try to change your golf swing, but just be conscious around the greens. Don't be sticking it in the ground. Make sure we get ball first. I encourage any chance you get around the greens. If you don't have to go through rough or over a bunker, keep the ball on the ground. Little bump shots. Because even then, you think of a putter and we think of a sweeping stroke, and you're never going to stick it in the ground, right? So around the green, 6 or 7 iron, kind of like a putter. You don't want to take a divot. You don't want to stick it in the ground, because a lot of times, even if you blade it, the miss is going to be playable. Last time I played Worcester, I was on 1, 2, 3, 4, the par 5, 4, and I had about 30 yards up the hill. The pin was kind of right in the middle. It was a simple shot, right? Little bump 6 iron, ran it up the hill. I ran it up to like this, and the member looked at me. He's a guest of the show already, Mike, and he kind of nodded. He's like, "You meant to do that, didn't you?" I'm like, "Yep." It's an easy shot, makes golf simple. And when you get out on golf courses with good conditions, right, they have that collar, that tight around the green, that apron, inside 30 or 50 yards where they cut it tight, or anytime on Bermuda, because of the way it grows, wiry, the ball kind of skates across the top of it. It makes it so much easier to control distance, and you're not at the mercy of the bounce, right? You could hit a perfect shot with a wedge. You land on a downslope or on a hard spot, and it takes off and doesn't react like you wanted it to, and you miss. So on the ground in Bermuda makes life easy. Trust me, it's going to save you, anybody from 10 handicap up to 25. It should save you a few shots around if you can kind of just bump it around, right? Instead of making 8, you make 5. You might not get it up and down, but you don't make the extra number. So, yeah, I know I got a little off topic on this episode because it's kind of who I am, right? I'm going to try to follow the timeline better now. Trust me, this is hard for me. Talking about myself is impossible. Talking about golf is easy. Being on camera is uncomfortable. I'm a perfectionist. I always want to hit, fuck, I stumbled, stop. But I got through this one. I battled through it. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable. And being on the medication kind of got me over that. So now I can probably have some things where you guys are going to want to listen to, because when it comes to golf, I know my shit. So we're going to get back to the driving range. We're going to record some stuff. There's going to be some videos here from the cradle, and I'm going to kind of work into this video where they fit in terms of me hitting shots and talking about my my swing. But there's going to be a lot more of that going forward. I'm going to start getting back to golf, right? It's fun to talk golf, and it keeps me fresh in a business that I thought I had burnt out in. Maybe I was just medicated. Who knows? Maybe I'm ready to come back. I don't know. We'll see. I'm definitely ready to throw a couple bags on the shoulders and caddy, and I want to use golf as kind of a therapy again. So those early morning, I think down here is going to be the easier way to do it, because there's nobody on the driving range. So those, as soon as they open, first thing open, the driving range, go out, hit a bucket of balls, kind of get my head right for the day, and then figure out the day off. I had some fun this week going out watching football, but it's not me. I'm just not that dude anymore. Yeah, I'll go to dinner and have a beer here or there, but to sit at the bar all day, every day, I never really liked it anyway because of all the people, but I was young enough where the booze and the games and everything kept me entertained. I couldn't get out of there fast enough yesterday. So like I said, I'm crashing on a buddy's couch, but he lives in Wellington. It's kind of a hike from where I was, so I drove up. It's the best night's sleep I've had in about a month in my car in the rest area, right? So it's funny. My mom was like, "I don't want you going down there living in a car." I'm like, "Don't worry, I have a place to stay. I'm crashing on a buddy's couch in his pool house, but there's gonna be some nights where I just stay up here because it's easier." And I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's not like I'm living in a Mitsubishi Eclipse like I used to. It's comfortable to sleep in. Last night I had the game. I have Paramount Plus, so I was able to watch the game live. I have a hotspot. It's just life's easy. It's not hard right now. I just got to find a job and find money. I'm not in a bad mood. I'm not, woe is me. I'm not wishing I was in a better place. I'm just happy I'm me again, and I'm looking forward to kind of talking golf and doing it in a healthy way, not a ranty way where I put the camera down and kind of not self-conscious, but like, oh, did I share too much, or did I go too in on a topic, or this, that. Now it's like I'm following a timeline. I feel good. I'm writing down the ups and the downs, right? I haven't been all rainbows and sunshine since I got down here. So, I know that the therapist, when I first started talking to her, said maybe we might want to go down the bipolar road and check that, but I don't feel like it's a swing right now. I feel like I'm good. I'm not too high. Obviously, how can you get too high when your option is to sleep in a buddy's closet, basically, in his pool shed that has a couch, or on a rest stop on I-95, right? So I'm good though. This isn't woe is me. I'm ready to get back to work. I filled out a few applications this morning at the Palm Beach Lakes Mall. Nike's hiring a manager, Under Armour's hiring. There's jobs, right? They're all $17 to $20 an hour. But we're going to start reaching out to some golf courses and stuff. I'd love to get back caddying. Right now, my feet are a little too swollen from the drive. I actually ripped my ankle brace trying to put it on today because that's how swollen my right foot is. But it'll take a couple days. It'll calm down, and then we'll be good. But I think I could throw bags on my shoulders right now. I walked the beach today, and for the first time in a while, I started feeling my quads and my hamstrings engaging, So that's the one thing I struggle with my golf swing. I feel like my legs haven't been in it because they've been so skinny and I've been off balance. So hopefully that'll help that side of things, and hopefully we can get back to, even if I can't play golf, I can go pound some balls and kind of describe what I'm working on and feeling. And who knows, if I do get an opportunity to upgrade the gear and put myself through a fit, you guys can follow along. So I just want you to know the positive mind is going again. This is not fake, trying to make it sound like life's great. Life's not great right now, but I'm healthy, so that's all that matters. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy this. I hope this kind of gets you guys back interested in my conversations, because this is kind of the stuff that I think about when I'm practicing and hitting balls. And trust me, I can rant for a half hour about what I just worked on, or what I don't like about that I'm playing in my bag, or the reasons I'm making changes on wedges, or why I hit that shot when I was playing the other day. So I think I got some conversations that you guys could hear when I'm talking about this shit. And if somebody wants to come back and have a conversation about something I've said in the past, this is not a redemption apology to where I said that yesterday. I stand by everything I said. I said everything that was running through my mind, and I still feel and felt before I was medicated that way. My delivery was a little different, right? My attitude on things was a little different. I went from being the figure it the fuck out type to being the woe is me, I can't do this type. And it's not me at all. And just getting back down here, walking the cradle yesterday, driving 24 hours, sleeping in my car, it kind of reminded me who I am and what I am, right? Like, how does a just kind of nobody 5'6" little white boy with no rhythm end up with Geno Green, right? Because I had swag back then when I was DJing. I know style. The corny shit that you guys do that I make fun of, I know where that line is, where it kind of, it's corny, but it's still okay. But I'm not afraid to tell you when you're being way past that corny line, and that's not going to change. That's my attitude. So trust me, there's probably some people that have left this podcast because I wasn't me and I was ranting. That might come back. And there's probably some people that have been following along thinking I was a good dude that might get offended going forward. Because the John that lets it rip, I'm not going to do race. I'm not going to do politics. I'm not going to do religion. But I'm also not going to do sugarcoat. And if I got something to say, I say it. If you don't like it, grab a number. I was at the deli today. I got a sandwich, number 27. Now serving. Not your number. Let's go.